Call to order the Economic Development Committee meeting, Regulatory Review Committee meeting for 6:30 on Thursday, July 11th. Roll call. Dan Ormsby.
Here.
David Keith.
Here.
Mark Eastman's here. Fee schedule, Jeff?
The fee schedule is on the agenda because when we talked about the planning board permit fee, there was a question about whether or not it should be returned or whatever. Jeff has gotten some information on what other communities do that he could perhaps explain.
Okay.
Good evening.
Evening, Jeff.
So I did take a look at and collected as much information about what other municipalities are charging for fees as I could off their website. Surprisingly, a lot of town websites don't have that information available, but what I did find was the following. It's about 6 or 7 towns I'll describe to you. Starting with Orland, our next door neighbor, for any size planning board project that's reviewed, they have a flat fee of $50. In Brewer, they have a flat fee of $200 for major site plans reviews. Hamden has a scale of fees. The highest one is for projects that are 8 acres or more in size, and the fee for that is $1,500. They also require a deposit for engineering reviews and stormwater analysis reviews and traffic analysis reviews if necessary. In Bangor, they also have a scale, and the largest project that they identify is 150,000 square feet or larger, and the fee for that is $2,814. Belfast charges a flat fee of $3,000 plus advertising costs, and they also have escrow costs if necessary. Ellsworth has kind of a complicated fee structure, but for Whole Oceans, if they were going into Ellsworth, they would be paying a fee of $3,725. In Augusta, a major development review is $2,000 plus a percentage for each square foot of the building area over 25,000 square feet. They have a maximum fee, which is the only town I've seen so far that has a maximum, and their maximum fee is $4,000. If Whole Oceans was going there and they didn't have a maximum fee, they'd be paying a fee of $58,200 for their review. In Bath, it's 75 cents per square foot of gross floor area, and they have a minimum of $200. Whole Oceans in Bath would be paying a fee of $30,000. And the last one is Brunswick. They charge a fee for a sketch plan review, and that's based on a nickel a square foot over 2,500 square feet. And then they also charge a separate fee when the applicant comes back for the final plan review at 12 cents a square foot. So if Whole Oceans had gone to Brunswick, they would be paying a fee of $68,000 to do their site plan review. As I mentioned at a previous meeting in Bucksport, Whole Oceans, with our current fee structure, based on a project cost, as my understanding is around $160 million, their fee would be $16,900 for the planning board. Just to put things in perspective, under the same fee structure, there are 4 large projects that were charged high fees, and the highest one was for the gas turbine project. That was an $80 million project, and the fee that was collected for that was $8,900. The biomass boiler was $41.3 million, and the fee collected was $5,030. Log processing facility was a $35 million project, and the planning board collected $4,400 for that fee. And the EDC building, the building that MMA is occupying, that was a $3.5 million project, and the fee for that was $1,250. So one thing I did notice with the towns that I was able to collect fee information was they mostly charge fees based on square footage, either the size of the building or the size of the land that's being developed. So we're a little bit of an anomaly here in Bucksport, where we base it on the cost of the project using the multipliers that are identified in the fee structure. If you wanted to keep the same fee structure and find a way to reduce the fees, so you're not asking an applicant to pay close to $17,000, The simplest thing to do is to move the decimal point one place to the left. So your multipliers down are going to end up with a lot lower fee. For example, if you do that, move the decimal point one place to the left, then Whole Oceans would be paying a fee of $1,690 instead of $16,900.
I believe the purpose of the fee is to cover the town's cost of processing the application. Is that true?
That's the intent, yes. That's the reason why you collect the fee, is to cover the administrative cost of doing the review. And we also have in the fee structure provisions for collecting fees for consultants. If the board finds it necessary to hire a consultant, then the applicant pays for the cost of that.
This is, we call it a fee if we want it's a tax. And anytime we have a tax, it's for services that we provide. When we think about what we charge for taxes for town services and what we collect, that's for services that we provide. We're not making money off the taxes that we collect. Fees are taxes. I mean, we're talking about what we're raising for a project and stuff like that. We've either got to come up with a minimum, I think, and based off square footage, and then have a scale for price for square footage, or do something different, move a decimal point. But if we base it on cost alone, costs are always going up for projects. I don't know if we have a true representation of what the cost is. We're going on a guess.
Well, that's the number that they threw out.
But I'm saying we're going off that right now without really anything else to base it off from, correct?
Right.
But
There's no concrete figure yet.
Right, but if we had a square footage, that's more concrete, I would think. I mean, the building's going to be the building, what it is.
As opposed to the cost.
I mean, if they have gold inlays or something, it's going to drive the cost up a bit, but we may not know that. But I still consider
I
it.
agree, because you could make an argument that your cost could go up, but it's not necessarily gonna make any more work for
For the town.
the town and what the tax is designed to do.
The town used to refund fees over and above what the cost of processing applications was. And then, Jeff, you said they stepped away from that because in most cases, much of the fees were being returned.
So the board's time and the staff time weren't accounted for. They were just one expense that we expect to pay anyway. And more often than not, the planning board didn't expend anything in terms of getting consultants and legal costs and things of that nature. So yeah, the fees were returned, and at some point the decision was made to stop doing that.
And if we collect it in case there's somebody needs to come in a speciality, how would we, do they just collect that fee? How would we collect that fee if you had to bring somebody in? We talked about.
For like for consultants?
Yeah.
Well, we'd get an estimate of the cost and then ask the applicant to deposit that.
Yep, so we just do it that way.
Well, this is for information. There wasn't a.
There's no proposal out there.
And there was no proposal, and I want to be clear that this was not initiated at the request of Whole Oceans. They've made no request to the town for anything. They haven't submitted any applications, and they have not asked for any reduction in any fees associated with their permitting. So they're being used as the example, but we're not the initiator of this discussion.
And for some folks that haven't been, we've been talking about fees since I've been here. I mean, you'll see that transfer station fees still haven't been set, or they're there, but we've discussed about changing them, so.
I think square footage is probably a better way to go.
I would agree, the cost.
Yeah.
That's how building permit fees are.
I was gonna say, a lot of other stuff is based off square footage in our fees anyway, so.
Yeah, that seems to make the most sense.
I would suggest that you get some.
Get a fee schedule based on
I
square
mean,
footage.
take what's around, places our size that are having some construction projects done, and, I mean, again, this doesn't need to be a moneymaker. I think, I look at it as
Oh, I
you can pay for cost of services and kind of figure out, the bigger projects are gonna cost a little bit more, but.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll get information on square footage-based assessments as opposed to our current, and come back.
Thanks, Jeff. Item 4, use of Silver Lake for swimming.
Real quick, still on fees, can we set something up so we can finish this up? I mean, you know,
Sure.
we've got stuff that's open here that hasn't been fixed, we've been talking about it, and I think it's only fair to kind of get this
Yep.
fee schedule figured out. If we're gonna be working on with this, let's just get the whole thing figured out, so.
Okay.
Back to Silver Lake, so it's come up, you know, I've heard from a few people, I've talked to Nick about it, you know, some desire to open up swimming on Silver Lake. Is there any thoughts?
I don't see why not.
None of us can justify
We
why
have,
we
I
don't.
just, there are boats that go on there with motors, and I don't think that that's gonna be any less toxic than a kid jumping in the water,
I agree.
so.
What was the reason behind it in the first place? Does anybody
Nobody
know?
knows.
Well, no, I think that back in the day, before the type of filtration and water through the water company that's present today, that there was concern that it could of contamination in a way that isn't present today because of the way the water's processed. I'm guessing, because it's been a forever thing, but there's many public water supplies allow swimming. Branch Lake, Sebago, you know, there's any number of those that do. And so this isn't, why don't we swim in Silver Lake instead of thinking about the pool? The pool is a separate subject here. This is just a discussion that's emerged when we were looking for alternatives for public swimming that were in Bucksport, that Silver Lake was suggested, and that if it's something that the committee supports looking at, it would go through the regulatory review. The planning board would have to, this is in our zoning ordinance, it would require a planning board public hearing, Jeff, is that?
For,
The swimming in, that's in our zoning ordinance?
no, that's a
Separate one,
yeah.
okay,
The
then the
planning
planning
board's
board
not
isn't,
involved in
but it would still require public hearing and that kind of process to see what the appetite in the community is for allowing, or looking to allow swimming in the, right?
I have a question. Would we be looking at designated swimming areas on Silver Lake, or would we be looking at opening Silver Lake up to swimming everywhere?
That would be part of the discussion.
The only reason I ask that question is if you're a property owner on Silver Lake now, there's an intrinsic value in being able to swim in Silver Lake if you can swim everywhere. All of a sudden, if your property value goes up because there's more development on Silver Lake, there aren't very many camps on Silver Lake, and I know there are a lot of rules around camps compared to what there were when Silver Lake became a thing. But if all of a sudden swimming is allowed and more recreational use is a result of it, the value of that property may go up. I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying that should be a consideration, is all of a sudden you have people who've owned property on Silver Lake for however long, and then all of a sudden the value of that property increases because of this. That should be at least something.
And I don't want to discuss it further, but I think it would be hard to just enforce saying you can only swim here. You know, you might have people with a jet ski, you get in the water, you know, those sorts of things. So I would be in favor of it.
The other thing I'd add is, you know, whether the water company has some areas that they don't want us in, maybe near the intake, you know, that might be an area, but I agree with you, it should be open as much as possible.
I mean, you bring up the enforce. Who enforces it?
Right.
Yeah.
People living on the lake.
Yeah,
But you don't see a house on the lake.
right.
So, I mean, no one really enforces that, do they, Chief?
It would end up being us. I mean, if you have private property there, people are not gonna want families on the backside of Silver Lake on the property. The town property is different. Boat launches, it's illegal to swim with a boat launch. So there are certain areas you're gonna have to designate to be able to swim at, and not on private property, obviously, because we're gonna get called and remove people from people's properties.
Right.
I don't know who owns, I have an idea who owns some of it.
I think you put swimming on there, you have people go out, they'll ski, I mean, they'll be it'll be not just swimming, I mean, people will, they'll use it. I mean, it's used now, I mean, that launch is always full. But
It's just a consideration.
do people swim in Alamoosic?
Absolutely.
How about Toddy? What's linked to Silver Lake?
A pipe.
That's the same water that runs right through Silver Lake.
Sure.
And people swim in it, they boat in it, they do everything on it. But Silver Lake is, what is it? I mean, I've never understood it in my life.
And I didn't know I don't know if it goes back, because I was on a lake this weekend that's been swimming open in Lake Wassakeag and Dexter forever, and it's the town water source. So I don't know if the filtration system really had anything to do with it. I think something else.
Mill wanted it that way.
Maybe, yeah.
Probably right. The mill didn't want it, or somebody that owned more property on it that didn't want it, or something. But it just makes no sense that we have this one lake.
It opens up a lot of opportunities too.
It does.
There's a lot of things that we can do to
Nick-
make that a good place for people to go.
Nick's email was just hit it home for me. I mean, the things that could happen there, not just to do with swimming, but the activities that could happen there are tremendous.
Yep. I agree. I just think, to go back to your example, Paul, Toddy Pond and Alamoosic, there are camps.
Everywhere.
Right. Silver Lake, you don't have that.
No.
And it's probably an eventuality you will. I think the property owners that are there now we should make sure that via public hearing, et cetera, that they're part of the conversation. That's all. Yep.
It's, Paul, but I believe it's all in resource protection, isn't it, Jeff? Yeah, so you have to build 250 back. You can't build.
Right.
You can't build 100.
No.
That would change the landscape too. Yep.
I think you would wanna designate areas though, cause like Jacob Pond right now, where there are camps, people wanna swim there, and we take several calls a year at the boat launch, cause it's the only place to go, so there's things to be addressed.
Yeah.
to be done.
Are we doing anything with
It's like
this?
a 25-foot
Well, the
setback.
question
from
is, do you want to
the landing, I think.
bring this forward through regulatory review with language that ends up for public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion?
Yep, make a motion to bring it forward to the council.
David, do you have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? And item 5, Town Farm Road, Winter's Lot?
This was on a prior agenda. There's a town-owned, very small lot. It's not a buildable lot because it's not big enough, but it's been foreclosed since 2010, I believe. And we put it out to bid twice and did not have any takers. An abutter to the property, Mr. Small, his property is being sold to some folks who are interested in acquiring that lot for the amount outstanding in all the years of taxes, interest, and fees. And I believe they're here tonight, Mr. Right over here. But that's the purpose. As I said, it's been tax acquired for many years, and we've had it out to bid twice. It's never got, because it's not buildable, because it's just between two lots. The lot that is interested on it is behind it, and this gives them access to Town Farm Road. I think I've explained that fairly well. So the question is whether the council is, we've talked about process before. This particular lot, as I said, has been out twice with no response and has been foreclosed. It's one of the last remaining foreclosed properties that goes back into the 2010.
What's the amount of taxes and stuff that's owed on it, do you know?
Around $1,700.
And how big is the lot?
If it's not buildable.
0.25 point.
I was just kind of curious what it was.
It's not a buildable lot.
No, but I'm just kinda curious.
Yes.
Yep.
That's
luck.
not really a very good descriptor, is it?
$1,700 for a quarter of an acre that's not buildable.
That's
That's what
right.
we're talking. We've done this in the past. Puts it back on the tax rolls.
Yep.
$6 a year.
No, it's $84.95 actually is the tax. But by the time they get through the lien process, it's $180 because of the fees and interest that gets added, and that's why, for all the years that
It's been
even though it
sitting, yeah.
started out at, it's $1,700, give or take.
So what's the process now? So what do we,
You can recommend that the council sell this, and if they do, I'll put it on
Yep.
the next agenda for
okay,
approval.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the council that we sell the property.
All in
Second.
favor? Motion passes. Adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Hey.
You resigned.
I know.
Family stuff.
Once this is a board role, his boys,
And he puts in